Hey there, you're back. I'm Supersonic Mikey, and welcome back to Mikey's Reviews, where I review and tell you my thoughts. Now, if you haven't watched the first episode yet, I suggest watching that before watching this video. The link will be down below. But if you're already caught up, welcome back. Now, I want to ask you this. If you're a Sonic fan, or any video game fan, I want to ask you this. Have you ever had a guilty pleasure with one game that most people would think is the worst out of all of them? Well, that's what I feel about today's game that I'm reviewing. I feel like this game gets a lot of flack, but I don't think it deserves it. What am I talking about? I'm talking about today's game, Sonic and the Black Knight. Wait a minute. This was the last game that I reviewed. Ryan, pass me today's game. Thank you. Today we're going to be reviewing Sonic and the Black Knight. Personally, one of my favorite Sonic games out there. For those who've been around on my YouTube channel since 2020, you may remember that I'm quite the biggest fan of Sonic and the Black Knight. Hell, I have most of the action figures that Jazzware's produced. You guys remember Jazzware? And I used to recreate some of my favorite cutscenes from that game. But without me being biased, is this game any good? Well, let's find out. Let's get talking about this game. Huh. What the hell? There's a tweet saying that Nintendo announced that all still functioning Wiis will self-destruct in 2023? Now that's just outrageous. There's no way that Nintendo would hate us that much. Okay, let's finally play this game. Alright, so you might remember that I've already reviewed this game back in 2020. Ah yes, Sonic and the Black Knight, the second and last installment in the Sonic Storybook series.
Also, what the hell, Sonic Team? Do we really have to see Sonic deep throat a chili dog hole? What the hell?
I know, right? I think one of the animators had too much fun making this. Now I know what you're all thinking, why am I reviewing the same game again? Well, here's the thing. I left out some major juicy details and I didn't really go all that in depth. But worry not, it's all in the past, so consider this a revisit on why I think Sonic and the Black Knight is a misunderstood masterpiece. So let's not waste any more time and start the game already. Released on March 3rd of 2009, Sonic and the Black Knight was the sequel to 2007's Sonic and the Secret Rings, with both being exclusive to the Nintendo Wii. I think it was safe to say it was clear that Sega wanted to do more of these storybook adventures with Sonic, considering this was labeled as part of the Sonic Storybook series, but they just never did. It's a shame, really. Okay, just like last time, I'll be reviewing my thoughts in 4 different categories: the story, the gameplay, the graphics, and the soundtrack. Now let's not waste any more time and jump right in. The plot of this game is easily one of the best in the entire series. It is Sonic at its peak. It's breathtaking, fresh, and most importantly, it's filled with passion. So let me tell you what the plot is. The scene opens on the bright sun, slowly corrupted by clouds. And we get our first glimpse at Merlina being chased by a demonic King Arthur, demon in all aspects apart from his human-like appearance. After being ambushed by a bunch of demonic entities, she summons a hero, a knight as swift as the wind, and we already know who it is. It's Mario! Sonic. And look at that! He's summoned with nothing but 2 chili dogs on hand. I find that an adorable little detail. Okay, maybe a little too far. Also, this scene and dialogue that Sonic says alone nails his personality better than any other Sonic game.
Oh, I get it. No problem. I'm used to stuff like this.
Anyways, as our hero steps into the fray, he's got his game face on, and he attempts to charge at King Arthur. Merlina wisely pulls Sonic back, and they escape the Black Knight with Sonic's mind on his lost chili dog. F in the chat, boys. After that, Merlina explains her origin as the great-granddaughter of the great wizard Merlin, and how King Arthur is immortal thanks to the scabbard of Excalibur, which the Lady of the Lake is whom gifted it to him, and that he's summoning hellish creatures from the underworld across the kingdom. So naturally, their next destination is to retrieve the sacred sword of the Misty Lake. Now surely this will be a piece of cake.
What in oblivion is that? Dragon!
Ah, fuck you, Elizabeth! A couple levels later, and we get introduced to another character. Merlina has Sonic pull out the sacred sword from its stone, seeing as it might be the only weapon which can defeat King Arthur. And when Merlina warns him of the dishonorable reputation he'll have for taking down King Arthur, being known as the worst of knights, slayer of kings, Sonic doesn't care.
Guess I can't be the hero every time.
That is what Sonic is. It's blatantly obvious that he's the hero of the story, and to hear him say, even if he's hated as long as he's doing what's right, he's more than happy, which I think is a fascinating character moment. Once the sword Caliburn is pulled out of the stone, they have some snappy back-to-back before King Arthur blasts another ambush on them. While victory is accomplished, the two heroes still don't see eye to eye, seeing that Caliburn is by the books and is intrigued with chivalry, dubbing Sonic as Knave the Hedgehog, until properly trained, which Sonic doesn't take it too lightly.
Whatever, you oversized letter opener.
Never fails to make me smile. The three walk through the Misty Lake to sketch out a plan when all of a sudden, Merlina goes quiet.
Why do flowers bloom, knowing they are destined to wither?
Huh?
Their time of beauty is so short-lived.
Merlina clearly suffers from death anxiety, or thanatophobia, and I'll admit, it definitely is a little bit out of nowhere without the rest of the story's context. Merlina decides to go into hiding after this scene until Sonic is ready to stop the king, so I don't think it's entirely random, but I'll dive more into Merlina once we get further into the story. Meanwhile, Sonic and Caliburn set off to the town of Camelot and visit the blacksmith to sharpen up Caliburn's blade, and then head straight to the Lady of the Lake. During the search, they encounter Sir Lancelot. After they swiftly defeat him, Caliburn asks Sonic why he did not deal the final blow. It was an insult to Lancelot's honor, but as mentioned before, Sonic doesn't really care much about the standards of chivalry because he doesn't really think it's necessary. That right there is the main conflict between Sonic and Caliburn throughout the remainder of the game up until their eventual friendship. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about another character in this game that I find underrated. Caliburn. Being the holy sword of the Arthurian legend and later Excalibur, he's very much, like I said before, by the books. He believes in chivalry, all the classic medieval knight values. He very much has different values than Sonic. Although they both want to do what's right and stop King Arthur, Caliburn would rather do things the knightly way. And that's where Sonic comes into play. He doesn't care about chivalry, honor, or any of that knighthood crap. All he cares about is doing what's right. And as we see as the story progresses, Sonic's philosophy begins to rub off on Caliburn, teaching that doing what's right is much more important than how to properly be a knight. Okay, and while Sonic's characterization is brought up again, I want to give my explanation on Sonic's place in a story. Because with great characterization aside, Sonic is a flat character as a narrative role. Flat characters are ones whose values are set in stone, so instead of changing themselves, their actions change the world around them. And that's pretty prevalent throughout the whole game. More specifically, he affects characters' outlooks on living life, as we soon will see as we enter into the second act of the story. As we continue, Sonic and Caliburn reach Nemu, the Lady of the Lake, and she gives them 3 tasks to prove his worthiness. He must prove his heroism, compassion, and bravery in 3 days' time. Why the fuck is it always 3 days?
3 days later.
After the tasks have been completed and the duo are rushing back to the lake with no time to waste, Sonic finds an innocent girl crying on the side of the road. She says that her town and parents were taken away by a dragon on a mountain down the way. And even with the time almost at its expiration and the fate of the kingdom all hinged on his timely return, Sonic follows his heart. He knows what's most important is to do what's right, and regardless of the consequences, Sonic knows this is the right thing to do, much to Caliburn's dismay, and off they go. We move on to the next stage, Titanic Plain, and here's where Sonic as a flat character begins to change the people around him for the better, because that's who he is. On the way to the dragon, they run into Sir Gawain, and after the battle is done, one of the most important cutscenes in the game occurs. Now I know what everybody's going to say, oh my god, Knuckles trying to kill himself? No, let me explain. That's a medieval Knight of the Round Table, and it's extremely important to showcase how Sonic is strengthening the doubt felt by King Arthur's most loyal comrades. In the opening cutscene of the game, all the Knights of the Round Table are loyal to the king, but even so, they've seen him change for the worse. But Sonic's fantastic line,
Isn't there more to being a knight than just serving a king?
is what visibly changes Gawain's outlook on his duty and the meaning of chivalry. Granted, that's not a 180 on Gawain's outlook on chivalry, but he is believing more that he needs to do what's right, instead of being loyal to the king. That line explicitly shows how Sonic has been acting, and that line shows that Sonic doesn't care about honor or knighthood. It shows that Sonic is a hero. This is the first outward case of Sonic being a flat character and truly taking its effect. I know I'm talking a lot about Sonic's characterization, but it really is such a consistent thing throughout the entirety of the story, and it's really hard to gloss over it. Practically every line he says is so in character that it's genuinely surprising. Of course, the whole dragon shit was obviously just the Lady of the Lake's true test for Sonic, and he passed with flying colors. So the Lady of the Lake tells them to use the sacred swords of the Knights of the Round Table to stop King Arthur. And just before they set off to their next destination on their journey, Sonic and Caliburn have a small moment where Sonic admits that he's getting used to Caliburn, and even compliments him, leaving Caliburn flustered. On to Molten Mine, my personal favorite, and for the last of the knights to be stopped, it's Sir Percival, and she's swiftly defeated. But in typical Sonic fashion, he saves her life without any second thought. Percival is confused, and Caliburn is quick to tease, and... okay, I can't do this cutscene justice, so it's best if I just play the clip.
Why? Why did you...
I guess you could say that Whim is my other master.
Save the hugs and kisses for later.
What? You jealous or something?
For a knave such as you? Ridiculous.
Enough of that knave stuff already.
Actually,
Yes?
Sonic the Hedgehog, you have mastered the code of chivalry. From this day forth, you shall be Sir Sonic, Knight of the Wind.
The way Sonic is genuinely annoyed with Caliburn and being so condescending, and how it even makes Caliburn second think his treatment of Sonic and his thoughts of this entire adventure, well, it's just so wholesome and heartfelt, and it really thickens their bond as partners, and now friends. Suddenly, Merlina returns, and she shows up again, thanking Sonic for all that he's done, and he says that he'll be off to end this, and she'll be waiting for him at Camelot Castle. And we get to one of my favorite cutscenes in the entire franchise, because...
This is
Sonic! I'm Sonic the Hedgehog, Knight of the Wind. Let's settle this once and for all, King Arthur.
It seems your impersonation of a knight has improved somewhat.
I have you to thank for that.
Then let us have another look at that unsightly swordsmanship.
You're gonna be sorry you asked. This is it, old pal.
Indeed. Give it everything you have. Only then will you prevail.
Then bring it on, King Arthur!
You shall regret the day you ever raised your sword against me.
oh boy, shit's getting real. Let's kick his ass!
I shall take you with me to the underworld.
My Bring your attacks to your opponent. Show me.
With King Arthur defeated, anticlimactically, he uses the scabbard one more time until Sonic uses the 3 sacred swords to finish him off. And, oh, he's dead. Roll credits.
What?
Alright, boys, so this is my favorite part of the entire game. The unskippable credits. Am I right, boys? Yeah, there's still more to cover with this story, but don't worry, I'm almost done. Shortly after King Arthur's defeat, Sonic takes the scabbard back to Merlina, who swiftly begins to use its evil powers for her own personal gain. Sonic and the Knights of the Round Table then escape the crumbling castle as it's collapsing around them by the second. See, now, this is something that we never really see happen with the franchise nowadays. Not only did we get CGI opening cutscenes, but also short in-between CGI cutscenes to enhance the game experience and making it larger than life. And we haven't gotten one of those since this game, along with Sonic Colors. Oh yeah, and Sonic Lost World, but fuck that game. What's the deal here? Bring them back. It makes the moment more epic. And no, CGI trailers don't count. But Sonic's influence has spread to those around him, and his ideals and optimism have been engraved into the Knights of the Round Table. And the reason for that is because of Sonic's previous actions throughout the story, changing them for the better. Because not only does that fit for Sonic's character, but also his archetype as a flat character. With the Lady of the Lake's help, the 3 knights and Sonic form a barrier. Sir Lancelot goes through Shouted Forest. Sir Gawain goes through Great Megalith. Yeah! Sir Percival goes through the Cauldron. Ha! Sonic goes through the Dragon's Lair and slays another dragon! Okay, I'm not milking that joke anymore. After the barriers have been formed, Sonic can finally enter the kingdom and confront Merlina, now the Dark Queen. As Sonic confronts Merlina, he asks, why'd she do it? Using the power of King Arthur's scabbard, she knew that she could become the ultimate wizard, and she wants to create a world that never ends. Like I said a few panels ago, Merlina suffers from thanatophobia, aka death anxiety. She's witnessed the future, and she knows that everything that she loves will eventually come to an end, and she cannot cope with that. Sonic tries to resist. He tries to tell her that living life to the fullest is what's most important, and that having a world that goes on forever discards the meaning of life entirely. But unfortunately, she cares less to listen. Sonic gets beaten to death and demolished by her skills of wizardry, and no matter what the Knights of the Round Table say, he isn't going to budge. Even after losing Caliburn, he's not going to budge. Even at the verge of death, he's not going to fucking budge. Just stay the fuck down already! This fucking scene, to this day, I still get the chills whenever I see this scene. This is what true courage is. This is Sonic the Hedgehog living life to the fullest. This is Sonic living by the values he later engraves in Merlina. This is Sonic doing what he thinks is right. That's why when he earns the power of Excalibur and dethrones the Dark Queen, it was truly legendary and one of the most climactic boss fights that I've ever witnessed when I first played this game as a young child. But looking at it now, while it hasn't aged perfectly, I still think it holds up real strong in my eyes. But once the Dark Queen is stripped away from her power, we don't see Sonic being cocky, nor do we see a celebration. But what we do see is a conversation. A simple, down-to-earth, honest conversation.
Merlina, every world has its end. I know that's kind of sad, but that's why we gotta live life to the fullest in the time we have. At least, that's what I figure.
Grandfather.
This is still my favorite cutscene in the entire Sonic franchise. I often hear people say Sonic Unleashed and Sonic and the Black Knight are the best versions of Sonic, grouping them as one, but I respectfully disagree. This type of tone and personality is how Sonic acts for almost the entirety of Sonic Unleashed. He's reserved to an extent, he's kind, gentle, but not in Sonic and the Black Knight. In this game, Sonic is blunt, rude, he's the blue dude with the attitude.
This could go on forever. You sure you're a sacred sword? Well, it's your fault. You're a sad excuse for a teacher.
But he never takes it too far. He knows what's important, and when push comes to shove, he's got a soft side. He knows when to be cocky, when to be serious, and most importantly, when to be genuine. This cutscene right here is genuine. And the fact that Sonic was such an attitude-ridden dickhead for the remainder of the game makes this all the more impactful. For the last character that I want to go through in depth, it's Merlina. What Merlina suffers from, as I said already, is thanatophobia, which is the fear of death, which is often caused when an individual experiences a loss at a young age. And what I believe is overlooked is the scene where Merlina quietly calls out to her grandfather while holding a freshly picked flower. I can tell that Merlina lost her grandfather at a young age, and it hit her hard. Hard enough to nearly pulverize everything in an effort to save everything. That's why I have a soft spot for Merlina as one of my favorite Sonic characters in the series. Dare I say, just as tragic as Shadow the Hedgehog himself in terms of their origins. And in my personal opinion, her story is just as powerful. As Sonic is crowned as the one and true King Arthur, the credits roll on a positive note. Come on. Ugh, you've gotta be shitting me. So you wanna know what's better than one unskippable credits? Yeah, that's right, 2 unskippable credits, am I right, boys? Guys? What the fuck? Oh yeah, there's also a post-credit scene. Amy tries to kill Sonic because he forgot about their date.
No, it's true, I tell ya. Yikes! No, Amy, wait! Put down that hammer!
Jesus Christ!
You get back here, Sonic!
You think the blue rat made it out alive? So yeah, that's the story. Needless to say, it's one of my favorites in the entire Sonic franchise. Not only did we see Sonic learn to understand his partner and earn his respect, making them true friends in the process, but he also brought a whole new outlook on chivalry and honor to the Knights of the Round Table. But most importantly, Sonic brought light into someone's world when all they ever knew was darkness. And you want to know what's crazy? I just spent 20 minutes on only talking about the story. So I think it's about time we take a break, take a breather, and focus on something else, like the gameplay. What the fuck? Kevin, can you pass me the Wii remote? Where is... Okay, everybody, hi, yes, I'm okay, though I was knocked out for 2 minutes after this shot was filmed. Just don't be an idiot like I was. Do not hit your friends in the head with a Wii remote. They will get seriously hurt. I know you probably don't care about this bit, but I'm just looking out for you guys. Anyway, with that being said, let's move on to the gameplay. The gameplay in Sonic and the Black Knight is without a doubt one of the more bare bones in the entire series, but somehow it works. The control scheme resembles Sonic and the Secret Rings, except it doesn't make me want to jump out of a 2-story window. I couldn't be more thankful that the developers let us control Sonic with a nunchuck. Part of the storybook series, you know it's not without blemish, but I don't really mind it all that much. By jacking off with the Wii remote, Sonic can swing Caliburn to defeat enemies on foot and in midair. The sword combat is hardly fluid, but it's far from clunky, and the buzzsaw attack is by far the best move in Sonic's arsenal. And it keeps the speed up. In fact, check out this footage of me going nuts with this move. As the game progresses, you begin to access new skills, like the Soul Surge, which, can we just agree that this is one of the most satisfying moves in a Sonic game, period? And you can even use the useless, and yes, I say useless crap, after you complete a stage, to the blacksmith to help you craft weapons for the Knights of the Round Table. My only problem is that the blacksmith mechanic itself is very underused and that the game never really explains you the item's purposes or what it does. We're basically looking at a junk food hack and slash as its gameplay style, and quite frankly, I believe that's perfect for this game. Considering that the runtime for this game is extremely short, this game feels more than dense. Dense with an outstanding story and some fun, fast-paced gameplay with some of the coolest set pieces in the entire franchise. The aesthetic in this game is out of this world. Enemy design is varied and further strengthened by a well-paced difficulty curve. The fast and stylish gameplay blurs the lack of depth in the gameplay. I'd argue that there is depth in this gameplay, but it's really just one foundational layer and not much more. I think that's more than fine for a 3-hour game like this. This game knows what it wants to be. It wants to be a fast-paced, story-driven Sonic fantasy game with a sword, and it exceeds in flying colors. And on top of that, this game very much encourages replayability. There's a lot of post-game missions, like collecting a certain amount of rings, racing against the clock, defeating a shit ton of enemies, and fighting a more difficult Sir Lancelot.
You seem more like a court jester. I thought I was the ultimate knight.
Doesn't stop me from kicking his ass, though. There's also a multiplayer battle mode, which me and my friends played so you don't have to.
You suck my cock.
What? How am I on here? I technically shouldn't even be on here. What the fuck? What? If any of you guys want to see more of me and my friends just screwing around in the multiplayer mode, I'll be uploading a video separately, and I'll put the link in the description below when I do. That was the Sonic and the Black Knight battle mode.
It was ass.
As for the looks, for fuck's sake, just look at the game! The look of Camelot is both medieval and fantasy, with huge set pieces of castles, towns surrounded by forests, and even volcanic mines that all seamlessly work like bread and butter, making this one of the most visually incredible games in the series. It's both realistic, yet cartoonish, with exaggerated demon designs and a larger-than-life dragon to slay, all of which somehow fit excellently with Sonic the Hedgehog. The game's music is a marvelous mastercraft. Composed by Jun Sonoy along with a few others, it's loud, powerful, adrenaline-pumping, and everything you want in a Sonic game. Its style doubles down on the adventure-style electric guitar while adding strings for that medieval vibe. Like, come on! Take a listen to these bumpin' tunes! But the best part of all is the massive use of Crush 40. They came back after their hiatus since 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog, and they slashed us with not one, not two, but five vocal tracks. Through the Fire, Fight the Night, Night of the Wind, With Me, and especially Live Life are some of my favorite tracks in the entire series. The OST is genuinely fantastic, easily one of my all-time favorites in the entire franchise, bar none. In conclusion, Sonic and the Black Knight is a very special game, one with simple gameplay, a phenomenal story, and some of the greatest music and aesthetics in the entire series. And somehow, with its small scale, earned a special place in my heart as one of my all-time favorite Sonic games. While yes, the gameplay is simple, it still provides a lot of fun and frantic fast-paced action, which more than satisfies the game's 2-hour runtime. The story holds this game together, enhancing everything else with quick pacing and some of the best character work in the entire franchise, providing more than enough interest and engagement to keep players going till the final credits roll, at least. The music and graphical style pick up most of the game's slack, causing it to surpass the storybook restrictions and elevate itself into feeling like a true, genuine Sonic game. I love this game with all my heart, and I had so much fun making this video alongside revisiting this game. This also has to be one of the best depictions of Sonic. Sonic with a sword is badass. Sonic and the Black Knight, above all else, was made with one thing, and that's passion. A love for the character and telling the greatest story they could about justice, understanding, and most importantly, the value of life. One more thing that I'd like to show off is the gallery. This is where you get to see all the development, concept art, and the cutscenes. When I was a kid, I used to watch these specific videos, showing a whole ton of fan art in a sweet slideshow with an acoustic rendition of It Doesn't Matter, Sonic's theme from Sonic Adventure 2, playing alongside it. Fun fact, one of the fan art submissions was actually traced, and the person who traced was disqualified. Here's what the original art looks like. Just want to point that out. If you have a passion for Sonic and want to have a fun time with the story and gameplay, try out Sonic and the Black Knight. And with that, I'm rating this game a 9 out of 10. And that is why I believe Sonic and the Black Knight is a misunderstood masterpiece. And that's a wrap for another episode of Mikey's Reviews. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And before I go, you might be wondering what game is next? Well, this hat will tell us. Ooh! Can't say that I won't enjoy this one. Until then, this has been another episode of Mikey's Reviews, where I review and tell you my thoughts. See you guys later.